green pepper season is always a bit of an odd one because it's at the beginning when they start to grow the plants, which is in summer, and then you have this sort of second wind that comes in, which is when it starts to get really cold. So then you have this excess of these beautiful large green peppers, which could have become red peppers, but the weather won't allow for it. So what happens is that the plant actually starts to get frostburn, and then you really need to harvest everything before that moment in one go, which means we're dealing with the pepper glut. No stress. In today's video, I'm going to show you what we do with some of that glut in a delicious way, might I say, which are stuffed peppers, and then we're going to keep those for just eating fresh. And I'm also going to share with you a trick on how we keep them shelf stable on the pantry for ready-made meals. Let's go. Hi folks, we're Sophie and Philippe, two professional chefs and regenerative farmers on a mission to empower people to grow, cook and preserve nutrient-dense, regeneratively grown, delicious food. We bring you how-to recipes, stories that bridge the gap between the land and our plates, sprinkled with a pinch of humor and lots of grit. After a wildfire burned down much of our farm, and with a baby on the way, we're working hard to rebuild our lives. Join us for some honest cooking, regenerative living and fun farm-to-table courses and retreats. The ingredients we'll be needing for today's video are, of course, our bell peppers. We have 26 medium-sized ones of them. They're thick in flesh. We have 2 liters of beef broth and 2 liters of passata, which is all but 8 cups each. Then we have 2 kilograms of minced meat here. This is the stewing kind and I have it finely minced. That's 4.4 pounds. Then I have 240 grams of white rice. That's 8.5 ounces. 2 cups of diced onions. 1 tablespoon heaped one of salt. 2 fresh chilies. 2 dried chilies, pardon me. 8 tablespoons of dried thyme. 2 tablespoons of sweet paprika. 1 tablespoon of dried garlic. A little bit of pepper. And we have 1/4 cup of white wine or 300 mils. And not to forget, I know I'm forgetting one, 6 bay leaves. I'm using medium-sized bell peppers for this job, and I'm choosing the ones without any blemishes. After washing and drying, I'm then going to chop off the head and I'm going to take out the inner core so that they get ready for stuffing. Once your peppers are all cored and ready to be stuffed, place them aside because now we're moving on to making the filling. Start off by finely chopping your onions. Then it's time to add in all the dried spices. And then mix it really well using your hands. This meat is well combined, the spices are in, the salt is in, and we're going to now equally divide this into 3 parts. 2/3 are going into the bowl, and then 1/3 I'm going to mix in the broth and the rice. 1, 2. Okay. Now for the sauce. We obviously are going to need a little bit of juice to make this thing juicy. So what we're using is a 50% passata mixture with 50% beef broth. We're going to mix that up, add a little bit of salt, some bay leaves, give that a good stir, and voila, we have our sauce mixture to introduce on top of these stuffed peppers. The rice will start to absorb liquids, and if we don't add the beef broth, it will be terribly dry. This rice, beef and broth mixture is now ready to be stuffed into these beautiful peppers. So let's get to it and try to do that with as little air bubbles inside as we can. A nice touch here, of course, is if you've saved the heads of the peppers, if you will, to cover them back up, and then we're going to place them in a saucepan. Now, in order for the bottoms not to burn, we're going to introduce a layer of sliced onions in the bottom, just a few tablespoons of olive oil to make sure it doesn't burn, and then we'll be placing these stuffed peppers tight and snug, one next to the other, to fill up the entirety of the pan. Into this pan of snugly stuffed peppers, we are now going to introduce the liquid that will keep them moist and juicy. We're going to top it up until they are just submerged, and then we're going to introduce a plate that fits inside that pan well. This will keep the pressure down, making sure that everything stays nice and in place during cooking. Then we're going to introduce a lid, and on a low simmer we're going to cook this for 45 minutes until they are all the way cooked through. Just pop this to the side for a moment, because what we'll do next is stuff the other peppers with the meat mixture as well. We do that in a similar fashion as we did the first ones around, but just the difference being that these ones don't have any rice in them. Folks, I wanted to take a quick minute because I want to talk to you about some amazing on-site and off-site experiences we're offering in 2026. Because even though we love making these videos for you guys, a big part of our business also is teaching people real life and having great one-on-one group experiences, because the internet is great, but human connection is even better. So if you're interested in joining us, we give courses where we teach you how to cook farm-to-table food. These are mostly set here in Portugal on our site, but we also offer really fun once-in-a-lifetime culinary experiences. If that sounds like something you're into, check out the link below. All right. Let's go back to the video. Now for the batch that will be pressure canning. So unfortunately, because stuffed peppers are quite high in density, the FDA does not recommend you canning them whole. So what we're about to do now feels a little sacrilegious, but we're going to deconstruct these stuffed peppers somewhat. And we'll do that by placing a knife into their core and chopping them in four. That was an unintended rhyme over there. And we will be placing them in our canning jars. Now, the jars that we'll be using have to be made especially for pressure canning. So this is very strong glass. Be sure that you check if the glass is correct, the correct thickness that is. And then what we'll do is we'll do the same thing we did with the fresh peppers, which is we're going to now submerge them with that delicious broth. So remember that if you're canning non-acidic foods, these are the rules and you should stick by them. Use a pressure canner for low acid foods. You have to make sure that your jars are filled, leaving at least 1 inch of headspace and also not too much headspace. So 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch is the optimal size. Then remove any bubbles that might be inside of the jar and wipe the rims clean. Add your lids and rings until they are finger tight, meaning that you have been able to just manually close them. So I'm using 1 liter or 1 quart jars that are the large size. We're a large family, so we like to can in bigger sizes. And what you need to think of here is the altitude which you're living on. So there are some specific rules about pressure canning, and if you don't know them, check out the description below, because I'll put some pointers there of things that you definitely should be looking out for. But I'll tell the most important ones here in the video as well. So your pressure canner needs to be safe and built according to regulations. Secondly, your glass needs to be of the right thickness. And thirdly, you have to think about where you're living on the planet in terms of altitude, because that will influence the cooking time. Now, we are above 300 meters or 1,200 feet, I think that is. I will correct it here in the spelling if not, which means that I have to go up to 15 psi, meaning that the pressure needs to be extra high for us to get to the right temperature. And then we're going to make sure that once it gets up to temperature, we have a 90-minute period of cooking all the way, so that we can really get rid of those botulism spores, might there be any of them present, and make this food super safe. All right, so it's the next day. This has completely cooled down. I've pushed the security valves up, so there's absolutely zero pressure left in this thing. Let's open her up and see the result. All right, so this is looking very beautiful. I can see that the vacuum sealed well because I'm not hearing any pop here, so it's concave. That's the first thing to check for. Secondly, it's very important that you let the pressure canner cool down naturally, and you only release the valves when it's completely cooled down, so when there's zero pressure left in the pressure canner. Otherwise, there will be still a lot of pressure inside of the jar, and you're changing the pressure inside of the canner, meaning that everything will bubble up and bubble out, leaving you with only half of the contents. So we're going to clean this off now, and then we're going to remove this lid. So the next step after you've checked the vacuum seal is to take off the rings, because you don't actually need the rings to stay on the jars when you're saving these in your pantry. You're storing these on your pantry. So I'm going to take these off. You can reuse those for the next batch. And then every time you can new things, don't reuse the lids. Those lids need to be repurchased. I'll leave a link below where I got these. And the next step is to check when you are going to eat your food if there is a good release of the pressure. So you want to hear that sound when you break the seal. That means that there was a real good vacuum seal. If you don't hear that, don't eat it. When you're going to taste your food, never do it raw. Always cook it 10 minutes before serving it, because let's say that in the worst case scenario there still were some botulism toxins in here, then the 10-minute boiling rule will help you to kill those off. So safety first, guys. And by the way, on safety rules, I'm also going to leave a link below about the FDA canning instructions. Be sure to read those. It's very interesting, and that way you're going to feel a lot safer and more confident doing these kinds of things at home. Side-by-side comparison. Let's do a little taste test here. I'm going to start off with the fresh made one. It's very hearty, very nice. I really like the flavor that the pepper gives it. And I would say that the mint lifts it up. You definitely would need the mint in here, I think. The sun is beautifully shining. It's not very wintry, this vibe right now, but I can see myself eating this in front of a fireplace. The filling is compact, but it's moist, and with the rice inside, it's a nice balance between like a meaty bite and rice. You could probably also serve this without the rice beneath it and just serve it with the sauce, because it's already a meal inside of a pepper actually, so maybe I would have done it without that much rice on the side. Let's try the second one. The deconstructed stuffed pepper. So this is more like, I want to say meatballs and pieces of pepper in a sauce with rice. Let me not be rude and talk with my mouth full. This is nice, very different actually, the flavor. It's more, slightly more peppery. And I would say that the consistency is a little drier, which is to be expected with canning. So this would be my favorite, but this is a nice way to store meals and have them ready to eat in case of any emergency, if your power goes out. Nice as well. I think slightly on the dryish side, but a good way to get rid of your green peppers and have some good family meal ready to go in minutes. All right, side by side, stuffed fresh peppers, the deconstructed canned version. My opinion, fresh is always better, but it's nice to have this as a convenience meal on your pantry shelf for those busy days that you don't have time to cook. If you like this video and you want to see more pepper content, check out this video. Or if you feel like joining us in Portugal for some farm-to-table cooking, check out this link here. See you on the next one, The Farming Chefs. Peace out.